This message has been brought to you by the government of Kenya and its partners. Ili kupata skiza tune hii ya joking kwa simu yako, bonyeza star 811 star 758 hash. Good morning, class! Good morning, Now I want to try the composition using the word jogging. Teacher, please give us spelling for the word jogging. Sitasema jogi ile jogi ya kunyongwa, rana. Ninasema jogging. Na sitasema jogi ile nje unasema jogi ya kukimbia ya marathon. Ama ile jogi ingine ile jogi ya television ya kucheka. Sitasema hiyo jogging. Na maanisha jogging ya brand ile kukimbiza ili changamoto. That's the composition using the word jogging. Ili kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza star 811 star 758 hash star 811 star 758 hash.
A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for creating time to catch the latest on KBC Channel 1 weekend, a weekend that has been tight-packed with quite a number of activities, and we're here to inform you right here on our comprehensive news bulletin. My name is Serfine Achieng Ouma, standing in for Purity Museo. Of course, a lot lined up for you, and we invite you to interact with us at KBC Channel 1. That's our social media handle, at Serfine_Achieng on Twitter, Serfine Achieng on Facebook. A lot indeed, as the search for the next CJ keeps gaining momentum. We got details about what is emanating from this particular exercise, plus matters COVID-19. How are we progressing in our country amidst the third wave of this pandemic? And a special feature that will give you an insight into the world of those who are recovering, those who have triumphed over rape and sodomy, right here in this particular bulletin. So join us as we kickstart right away. But first, let's begin with the highlights. www.kbc.co.ke is our website. We are going to be posting some of the stories and others on that particular platform. We are also streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, so do also engage us on those particular platforms. Our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. Now let's begin straight away. The search for the next Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court kicks off proper Monday, when the Judicial Service Commission will begin vetting 10 shortlisted candidates. Each candidate will have a day to face the panel as JSC seeks to fill the position left vacant after Justice David Maraga retired after attaining 70 years. Kevin Washira begins our bulletin.
Justice Chitembo Said Juma will be the first candidate to be vetted for the position of Chief Justice by the Judicial Service Commission, chaired by Professor Olive Mogenda. Professor Kameri Mbote will appear on Tuesday, while Lady Justice Martha Koome will be vetted on Wednesday. Justice Marete Njagi and Philip Morgor will appear on Thursday and Friday, respectively. The other 5 candidates will be vetted the following week in an exercise that will last 10 days. 13 applicants applied for the job, but only 10 met the minimum qualifications. Chief Registrar Ann Amadi says the Judicial Service Commission has carried out background investigations on all the candidates as well as public participation.
We received feedback from the public. We got complaints, we got compliments. And for the complaints, the candidates were asked to respond. They all responded, and the commission will take into account.
Upon completion of vetting, the Judicial Service Commission is required to submit the name of successful nominees to President within 7 days. The President is then required to forward the name to Parliament for vetting and approval. If Parliament rejects the nominee, Judicial Service Commission will restart the process. If Parliament approves, the President shall appoint the nominee.
We expect to take about 3 to 4 hours with each candidate. So starting at 9 o'clock, we hope to be done by 12:30 or 1 o'clock every day.
9 candidates for the position of Judge of Supreme Court will be vetted after 2 weeks. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
The country has recorded 18 coronavirus-related deaths in the last 24 hours as 486 new cases were confirmed from 4,134 samples tested. Kenya now has 256 patients who are fighting for their lives in the intensive care unit in various hospitals. Cases indicate cases now stand at 145,670. 1,660 patients are admitted in various hospitals, while 490 more patients were discharged both from hospital and home-based care. Now moving on, it was 21 tough days for Jomvu Member of Parliament Badi Twalib, who had to battle not only COVID-19 but living a solitary life. It all began in the 3-day political tour with his party boss Raila Odinga in Voi, Taita Taveta, that ended in Kilifi, and what followed, the Jomvu legislator says, was isolation. Twalib narrates his recovery journey to our reporter Junei Karisa, admitting the shortcoming that landed him with COVID-19.
We arrive in Miritini, Jomvu constituency to a cozy welcome by Jomvu Member of Parliament Badi Twalib.
Yes, morning to you. How are you? Mambo?
Twalib drives back memory lane to reconstruct the events that almost cost his life. A 5-day tour across the coastal strip by ODM party leader Raila Odinga will hand him a rude awakening to the realities of the COVID-19 virus. On Thursday, the 5th of March, a breakfast meeting and a series of rallies in Mombasa in disregard to the Ministry of Health protocols turned out to be the super spreader of the killer coronavirus. And as if everything was normal, it was meeting after meeting and even merrymaking. But the reality dawned on the legislator at a Women's Day rally 3 days later, after the Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho insisted for his company to Zanzibar for a 3-day business trip, prompting him to take a COVID test. The results did not resonate well with him.
Mimi mwenyewe nilidhani it was somehow sort of fatigue kwa sababu ya kazi nyingi. And by those results to turn to be positive, kwangu it was a shock. Let me tell you, haikuwa hivi hivi. The first person to break that news too was my wife. She was the one who advised me to go to the hospital at that particular night.
A day later, Raila Odinga tested positive for the virus alongside other leaders.
Msafara ambao tulikuwa nao na Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, sidhani kuwa ndio ile sababisha. The same days ambazo mimi nilipata majibu yangu. At the same days ambao Raila Amolo Odinga was in Nairobi hospital, and on the same days Honorable Koinange the late was in Nairobi hospital. Raila has gone home. Here I am, I thank God. Naongea. But Koinange yuko kwa grave.
With fears of the virus disseminating lives, he decided to keep fit and reawaken his passion for poultry keeping to engage his mind.
I turned it even to be my private office. Kwa sababu even if niko na ugonjwa wa corona, lakini it's not a matter of life and death.
The 4-week healing period will change his perspective to adherence to health guidelines.
Tukumbuke Uhuru si ambaye atakuja mtaani kuja kukuzuia wewe ili usiweze contract corona. Ni jukumu lako wewe. Leo ikiwa Iran imetambua kazi ambayo Mutaikagwe amefanya, mpaka juzi wakaja kutupatia msaada pia. Kwa nini sisi hatutaki kutambua ile kazi ambayo viongozi wetu wafanya?
In Changamwe and Jomvu sub-county, 164 people have so far contracted the virus. 150 recoveries have been registered, leaving 14 patients battling with their lives.
Mimi kujitokeza kwangu, nitasaidia wengi wale ambao walikuwa hawana hope ya kwa kuwa wanaweza kupona wakiwa na imani.
It is such a great moment to tell you congratulations right now. Because you've made it. Sure. You have been strong during that time and you never gave up. You never despaired in anything. So congratulations on your results.
The COVID-19 virus is no respecter of persons or boundaries. It is your duty, therefore, to make sure that your family and community is safeguarded against the raging pandemic. Juni Karisa from Jomvu in Mombasa County.
Thank you, Janae, for that report. Now, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops has urged the government to reconsider its position on closing the Dadaab camp. The church says those in the camp are still vulnerable, especially in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. In a statement by the bishops, they say that the refugees require continued protection and the country should analyze those in dire need of asylum.
The government of Kenya last month ordered the closure of the Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps in northern Kenya, which together host more than 410,000 people from neighboring Somalia and Sudan. The Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, in a statement to newsrooms, has asked the government to reconsider its position, saying forcefully returning refugees to Somalia, where there is still insecurity and attacks on civilians, will lead to more suffering of many vulnerable women and children. The Catholic Church holds the refugees can be repatriated on voluntary return when conditions change and a free democratic government that respects human rights, good governance and the rule of law is in place. The statement signed by the Chair, Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, Most Reverend Philip Anyalo, further states that the government should continue holding dialogue with other stakeholders towards securing lasting solution in the troubled countries. The bishops are proposing that the government shelves the repatriation plans and instead increase security and any other support to the refugees as well as to the bodies that work directly with them in ensuring they receive their basic needs. Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 Lunchtime News.
Now, still on calls by the religious leaders, the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims has appealed to the government to provide relief food to Kenyans facing starvation in arid and semi-arid areas during the month of Ramadan. SUPKEM chairman Hassan Olenado says over 1 million people in the counties of Tana River, Wajir, Garissa, Mandera and Isiolo are facing starvation. Irene Muchuma Odim with details of this story.
The Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims, SUPKEM, is raising a red flag on the rise of starving families in arid and semi-arid parts of Kenya. SUPKEM National Chairman Hassan Olenado says the number of families facing food shortage has risen from 700,000 to 1 million in the counties of Tana River, Wajir, Garissa, Mandera and Isiolo.
Because of COVID-19 containment measures, our movement and social gatherings are restricted considerably, and therefore we may not open our doors to welcome people into our homes during the holy month of Ramadan.
According to NADO, the National Drought Management Authority projects that over 90% of those living in the 5 counties will face food insecurity by August this year. SUPKEM now appeals to the government to mobilize relief food for affected families.
officers, the private sector, and both local and international development partners of goodwill to support the Muslim communities all across the country. Specifically, we seek his support in our efforts to mobilize both material and financial resources that will assist identified needy families during the holy month of Ramadan.
Meanwhile, 6,000 needy families within Nairobi County are set to benefit from food rations, among others, flour and sugar in the spirit of Ramadan, thanks to a philanthropic organization in the city. The Muslims for Muslims, a humanitarian aid group, has partnered with a number of organizations to help feed needy families in Kangemi, Dendora, Kamkunji, Starehe, Embakasi and Madhari.
Tunaanza leo na tunapeana chakula kwa familia 1,000 kwa leo, na nia yetu na azma yetu ni kwamba tutaweza kupea familia 6,000 chakula hichi cha Ramadhani, na tunaomba Wakenya wote na wasaidizi katika hali yote ile.
Irene Mchuma, Odim, Channel 1.
Now to Migori County, where fish traders in the county have gotten a reprieve following the revamping of the Opapo fish plant in Rongo sub-county. The program, which is being done in collaboration between the Kenyan government and the private sector, seeks to eradicate vices such as transactional sex in fish trade by empowering traders through capacity building, value addition, and access to market for their produce. For decades, fishing has remained the main economic activity for residents of lakeshore counties like Migori, with women forming a larger percentage of those involved in fish trade. Socioeconomic factors such as poverty, cultural practices, and competition among women who are involved in fish trade has exposed them to risks such as sexual exploitation. Fishermen seem to be taking advantage of the stiff competition between the women to demand for sexual favors in exchange for fish, a vice commonly known as for fish, which has been termed as the biggest contributor to the high HIV and AIDS prevalence along the lake region, where it is double the national average. The narrative is, however, changing following the revamping of the Opapo fish plant in Opapo Ward, Rongo sub-county in Migori County. The program, which is being facilitated by the national government in collaboration with Rio Fish Company, seeks to eradicate transactional sex in fish trade.
For the women, we found out that their male counterparts take advantage and ask for sexual favors in return for allocation of fish. So we are now empowering the women to be able to farm their own fish and sell it without depending on their male counterparts. So it's called the sex for fish vice, which we are trying to fight as well.
Dr. Francis Owino, the Permanent Secretary in Fisheries, Aquaculture and Blue Economy, also says that the program will entail cutting down the cost of production for traders by providing fish fingerlings and feeds.
Partnering with the county government, the program will ensure that fingerlings are available. And as we speak today, we have brought in 15,000 fingerlings for this pond. Secondly, we have a challenge of fish feed. This program brings in an intervention.
In fish farming, 80% of the cost is cost of feeds, which is very expensive for the farmer. And so a lot of farmers start and they stop on the way because they can't afford. I mean, one of the ways to boost this is if we can get a revolving fund where we can give the farmer the fish feeds on credit.
The plant, which is located 8 kilometers from Rongo town, has been in operation for the last 6 months and now has a restaurant located within the premises. The restaurant's proprietor, Bob Okello, however, says that the COVID-19 restrictions have had a great impact on their business.
And when we go to collect fish, you cannot travel at night. And so if we don't get support to be able to move and collect the fish, then people will not be able to find fish here to buy, to go and use in events or use in funerals or, spend wherever.
When the fisherman or the fish farmer is ready with their fish, they don't know, they start thinking of which market can I take this fish. So we are now telling them that we have market ready for them and they can bring all their fish here. We will handle it properly, store it and then distribute it through our market system, which are basically benchmarking on the franchises that we have.
The revamping of the fish plant is part of the government's agenda of operationalizing fish plants established under the year 2009-2013 Economic Stimulus Program in 4 counties in the country. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Serfine Achieng, Ouma.
Now, away from Migori County to what is happening elsewhere in the country, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers has called on the Kenya National Examination Council to prioritize the welfare of examiners of the ongoing KCSE exams countrywide. Meanwhile, former Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi has strongly defended the government external borrowing, terming those opposed to it as enemies of development. More of this and others in our county news roundup.
KUPPET Secretary General Akello Misori stated that it was paramount to review the pay and allowances of invigilators, supervisors, examiners and teachers marking the KCSE exams working amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. The union has called on the government to ensure all teachers are vaccinated against COVID-19 ahead of schools reopening.
Nearly half these teachers could have been reached. But from the records which we have come across, is that nearly about 55,000 teachers are the only ones who are already enlisted for this service. That means that nearly 250,000 teachers, by the time we are opening schools in May not have received the job.
Now, what's the protocol? Okay.
Meanwhile, former Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi has strongly defended the government's external borrowing and dispelled assertions that the rising debt was not sustainable.
World Bank atupatie pesa kwa sababu World Bank yenyewe kutupa pesa sisi huwa hawatupi pesa kwa sababu wanatupenda. Wanaangalia kuwa tuna uwezo wa kulipa. Wanaangalia uchumi wetu unafanya vizuri ndio watupe.
In Murang'a County, community elders and church leaders who organize initiation ceremonies among boys have been urged to take the opportunity and educate young men on social values. In another development, religious leaders in Nakuru have called on the government to reconsider restrictions on worship places and allow limited congregational worship.
Serikali tuendelee kuruhusu kanisa na misikiti kufanya kazi yao ya maombi.
Still in Nakuru, Bahati Member of Parliament Kimani Ngonjiri has dismissed the possible formation of alliance between Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's ODM party.
But I'm hearing people saying it's like we have joined with the ODM. No. I repeat, no. We have not joined with the ODM anywhere.
Finally, Nabakolo Member of Parliament Emmanuel Wangwe wants the Sugar Task Force report presented to Parliament for debate in what would save sugarcane farmers from incurring losses.
The task force, ikuje bunge, that report is not in Parliament. Iko between Governor Paranya na State House ambapo imeenda. So that ikikuja bunge, mimi nichukulia pale, we want to resolve the issue of this weighbridge through the task force report, so that we correct things once and for all.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Now, crossing the borders, a remembrance service for the Duke of Edinburgh has been held in Canterbury Cathedral as the UK observes a period of official mourning. The late Prince Philip will be buried on the 17th of April when the mourning period will end.
The remembrance service for the Duke of Edinburgh was led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, who is also expected to lead Prince Philip's funeral next Saturday. Prince Philip's royal ceremonial funeral will take place at Windsor Castle in a slimmed-down service under the UK COVID-19 measures. Only 30 people expected to be the Duke's children, grandchildren, and other close family can attend the funeral. Cardinal Vincent Nichols, the head of the Catholic Church in England and Wales, has suggested that coming together for Philip's funeral could help to heal any tensions. Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, said that no words can reach into the depth of sorrow that goes into bereavement. The funeral service on Saturday will also be attended by Princes William and Harry. The Duke of Sussex will fly from the US for the service, though it is not clear when. His wife, Meghan Markle, who is expectant, has to remain at home in California on doctor's orders. The Prince of Wales and members of the royal family will walk behind the coffin ahead of the funeral at Windsor Castle. Sir John, who was appointed a special guardian to the princes after their mother Diana, Princess of Wales, died in 1997, said the friction in the family better end as speedily as possible. He said they share grief at the present time because of the death of their grandfather. A national minute silence was held to coincide with the start of the service. Princes Andrew and Edward, the Queen, and Prince Philip's youngest children spoke to the congregation at the Royal Chapel of All Saints and thanked those who worked on the Windsor estate for their support, particularly over recent days. Prince Andrew said he loved his father and that his death was a terrible loss.
Now on to our special feature tonight, a story extracted right from the inner pains of two victims of rape, a male victim and one female. With such pain comes the ripple effect that destabilized the victim's worldview. Wambui Otiende interviewed the two and sought experts' opinion on how best to help victims of sexual harassment. Here is her report.
When you meet 28-year-old John Atanda, nothing from his looks will betray the inner pain that he has gone through in the past, until he deliberately sheds off the camouflage to open that guarded window into his experience. Atanda is a victim of sexual violence, and it happened at a party 5 years ago. His party mates hatched a devious plot that was to change his life forever. Being the most sober, Atanda stepped out to buy more alcohol, only to come back to a spiked drink. In that state, his 5 friends sodomized him in turn and left him for dead.
I've felt a victim of rape before, a couple of years ago, and I was raped by friends of mine, people that I trusted so much. And I can tell you it's not easy to be a victim of rape. And the journey is not easy because the people that you trust most, wale wase umeaminia, hawa ndio wase wataku walk through, wale wase that you can lean a shoulder on. And then these are the people that backfire on you again. And the journey has not been easy, but with time, the healing process just comes and you learn how to forgive day by day.
Atanda, not able to open up about the incident, suffered physical, emotional, and psychological trauma in silence.
It was just on a normal day. We just had a party in the house, to be precise. We just had a party in the house, and one thing led to the other, and I was drugged, and then later on, I was sodomized.
He would only start overcoming when he sought counsel. He says he has since forgiven his perpetrators.
I didn't take any action because sometimes just the fear, you just don't know even how to begin saying, to begin reporting. It's just like people who abuse you are not even people that come from far. They're people who are just within you, people who know you. So sometimes there's that fear of, I know them. There's that fear of, let me just hold it on.
You just left them to be?
I just left them to be.
And that has
You just be forgive and forget.
However, sexual violence comes in different forms. For 26-year-old Pauline Juma, founder of Rebirth of a Queen, her first sexual encounter was allegedly arranged by a friend.
And it was around 7 a.m. in the morning. Before you go, let's just go help my brother so that I won't have a lot of work when you go to school, and then I'll take you to the stage. You see, I keep saying that was the day my life ended. Like the little, fierce, loving Pauline ended on that day.
Pauline, who was 16 years old then, sought medical attention at a nearby clinic but did not report the abuse to the police. She feared if she reported, she would expose her mother to the ultimate danger, or so she said she had been warned.
So I went to the hospital. We used to call it Wanga. Right now it's the Kibera Health Center. And I told the doctor everything that had happened to me. And I just told the doctor, I need medication, and I just need you to do everything that you're going to do. So I was given a PRC. They took me through all the medication, and I lied. I'm going to report. I lied because they wanted to help me, but I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to speak to my mother. All those excuses I gave.
She, however, fought with post-traumatic syndrome disorder that included suicidal thoughts and actions. Her behavior was so weird that eventually she was expelled from school.
The principal, the best thing they did to me was to send me home. I was becoming a threat to the school.
Feeling betrayed by her closest friends, that is her girlfriend and the brother, and with the burden of protecting her mother's life, Pauline resorted to art, that is writing and drawing, as a way of coping with her situation. Pauline, a candle as her mother used to call her, started her organization Rebirth of a Queen on the 1st of June 2020. It aims at helping young girls who are victims of sexual and domestic violence. Situated at Kiserian, the organization has a total of 18 girls rescued from the streets.
1st June 2020, we opened up our first shelter. It was in Kiserian, but in a very different place.
According to Cheryl Mwangi, a psychologist, people who commit rape go through psychological disorders, some with unmet desires, while others do it in retaliation to similar previous encounters.
In some cases, yes. Especially those who were abused at a younger age. And that is what was introduced. The first sexual act was introduced like that. So most of the time, they end up becoming perpetrators. And also the other thing is that a lot of promiscuity, especially for women who are abused at a younger age, it happens a lot, yes.
Victims do not know what to do after rape and end up cleaning themselves, something that Mwangi strongly discourages. Cheryl, however, advocates for professional counseling to victims of rape and enhanced public awareness campaign on the right steps to take after a rape incident.
Able to teach consent, psycho-educate on consent, informed consent on issues around sexuality, then it will be easier for people to understand where to draw the line. But a lot of our cultures, even in our families, how are we teaching our children on informed consent? Understanding that informed consent should go all the way to the point of actually letting this person, be intimate with you.
Cheryl, who has been a psychologist for 7 years, says societal undertones behind rape culture has the most damaging effect on the psychological temperament of the victims, who have been stigmatized by a victim-blaming society, which compounds to change in behavior or suicidal tendencies among victims. The psychologist also stated that most victims of rape end up in suicidal thoughts because they never recover fully, and everything to them is always a trigger of the incident.
The first person they spoke to about the incident, how the person treats them, how they respond to it, then that one will contribute highly on the healing journey of that particular individual or the victim. Because if the person doubts them, if they are accused, if they are blamed for it, then number one, they will not talk about it. So they will suppress every feeling, every emotion that comes with that experience. So healing for that person will never happen.
Echoing her sentiments, Valencia Jibera, an advocate of the High Court, says that victims after an incident of rape should report to the police, then later get medical attention.
The first step after a victim has been raped, the first thing they should do is they should not take a shower and they should not change their clothes. The first step that they have to do is to go to the police station. And then after they go to the police station, they will be, if it's a lady, they will be taken to a gender desk. All police stations nowadays have a gender desk so that they can treat such cases. Because, you know, something like rape, it's not something you can just go at the station and start talking about it. So you'll be directed to the gender desk. And once you've been directed to the gender desk, now you will be given an officer. And then now you can be able to explain what happened. You can tell them that this is what happened, I was raped. Then they will give you a form, a P3 form, which is free of charge. You're given a P3 form, and then that P3 form, you will go with it to the clinic. Then a medical examiner will examine you and take a look at what happened, take a look at your body, and then they will fill that form. And then that form, you take it back to the police station.
Jibera highlighted on different sentences that perpetrators get according to the Sexual Offences Act and which sexual offences are termed as rape.
Every sexual offense has a minimum prescribed sentence. Now, for rape, it can be 10 years to life, to imprisonment for life. For attempted rape, the same, 10 years to imprisonment for life. Like when the judge is passing out the sentence, it cannot go below 10 years. The minimum can only be 10 years or to life imprisonment, depending on, of course, the circumstances of the case and the severity of the case. Now, where there is mainly a major difference is for defilement. They have various sentences depending on the age brackets. For like 11 years and below, it's life imprisonment. From 12 to 15, you get 20 years. Then 15 to 18 years of age, you get 15 years and above.
It is clear that victims of rape go through distressing experiences that sometimes leave them with feelings of self-hate and blame. But speaking up helps a victim get the much-needed psychosocial help. For Channel 1 News, I'm Wamboi Otiende.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka kwenye Quickbit ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Next on
Toa nikupe, hiyo ndio hongo na huo ndio ufisadi.
Kuna kanzi yangu, kama unaitwa Muhammad nani? Sio kama unaona nani. Kwani nimepata na bidii tafadhali. Hii ndio fanya yako. Basi ndio. Sasa hii kazi za katika hizi. Na mwaka huu mwingine wa hapa lazima uweze ni
Lakini kanuni kazi sisi ndio kujikata. Kama kilingia hata moni.
Kilingia moni ndio nisingebeba hivi. How can you be a student ambaye ana hivi?
Madam.
Okay. Ndio mbona hapa unavunjika na semester?
It's now time for us to focus on some sports and news, and we begin straight away. Sportsmen and women set to take part in the Tokyo Olympics are hoping that the government will allow them back to full training after receiving the COVID-19 jab a few days ago. Sprinter Ferdinand Omanyala is among those who received the jab and now narrates his journey in the field of sports and the challenges they encounter as sportsmen.
That all sporting activities are hereby suspended. Similarly, operations of sporting and recreational facilities, including members' clubs, are suspended until it is otherwise directed.
On March 26 this year, President Uhuru Kenyatta gave directives aimed at preventing the spread of coronavirus, and among the directive was the suspension of all sporting activities in the country. The directives did not only affect the players but also some organizations that were sponsoring different fields.
So the lockdown, we as a company, we just have to comply, and in as much as we would like the sporting activities to continue, we have no choice but to support the government, because it does not make sense to have sporting activities at the expense of the health of various, the health of the nation. 2 weeks later, players and coaches expected to take part in the Tokyo Olympics began the isolation trainings to keep their bodies fit, hoping that the government will hear their plea and allow them back to full training, but under strict containment measures. Ferdinand Omanyala, a student at the University of Nairobi and Kenya's 100 meters record holder, received the news while on his duty to represent the country in the making of Players Grand Prix in Nigeria.
I started playing rugby a little bit, and then I found a friend who told me I'm too fast for the guys in the field, so I should try and go for athletics. So I was motivated. I decided now to continue sprinting. So from there I started doing strength training and more of sprint training, because now I had found my coach in Nakuru. From there, so we started just training and seeing how things would work. So we trained for like 2 months. Later on, I went and won the Olympic trials in Kipchoge Keino with a 10.38. That was our very first time during that time.
So we signed Ferdy about 5-6 weeks ago, and obviously he's been running well, and he got invited to Nigeria last week to run in the Grand Prix, and the sponsor for his flight sort of pulled out the last minute, and so that's when we came in just to make sure that he could get there and run his race and, you know, get the time to qualify for Tokyo, which he did with his 10:01.
We're not really sponsoring Omanyala. We are supporting him. As I indicated earlier, we are committed to supporting talent and sports at grassroots levels to ensure we get the next generation of superstars from this nation. And we believe the next Usain Bolt can come from this country. We believe the next Kipchoge, the next generation of talent is at the grassroots levels. And Omanyala is one of the big stories that we're having today.
Kishafanya vaccination, Ministry of Health na President, Ministry of Sports, watu allow haraka iwezekanavyo turudi kwa kiwanja, ndio mwanzo tumalize ligi in time, pili tuko na World Cup qualifiers.
Daniel Mwendwa for Channel 1 Sports.
Now, Deputy Clerk of the Safari Rally course, Nazir Yacob, says the nature of the WRC Safari Rally Kenya will not be for the faint-hearted. The Safari Rally, which is slated for June this year, returns to Kenya after an 18-year hiatus.
While inspecting the Safari Rally course, Nazir Yacob said it might be a short rally from the look of things, but one must be cautious when driving on safari.
It is a navigator's rally. Let's be very honest about that. Number one, for the pure reason the navigator is going to have to control the driver to not break the car. This is not Wales, and neither is it Finland. This is Safari Rally. This is a game of, it's a long game. It might be a short rally, but you've got to think long. You've got to think of the last day on the podium. And if you come here with maximum attack strategy, on a first outing for a WRC, the best of luck.
Nazir noted that sections on both Naivasha and Soisambo Conservancy sides are both technical. Nazir revealed that it will be a different rally because of the current crop of WRC, P1 and P2 drivers are yet to compete on African soil.
Our boys are still running at national championship level. The P1s and the P2s and the WRC2 and WRC3 today are running at international level with a lot of factory support and team support. So I don't think it would be fair to compare one with the other. But as for the quality of drivers, for the machine, the way the machine is handled, I think our drivers are great.
Nazir believes WRC drivers will have no choice but to think of the last day of the rally, which will culminate with the Hell's Gate Power Stage. He noted that the most interesting aspect of Soisambu Conservancy section is the landscape, which has the famous Sleeping Warrior Hill and Lake Elementaita. The Elementaita stage will be a 15-kilometer stage, Soisambu 20 kilometers, and Sleeping Warrior 32 kilometers, while the volcanic Ashkedong stage, which is the longest stage, is 33 kilometers.
Indeed, it is not for the faint-hearted. You had the warning right there. Looking forward to this going forward. Now, moving on, Egyptian giants Zamalek have crashed out the CAF Champions League less than 5 months after being defeated in the 2020 final. The Egyptian heavyweights downed Senegal's FC 4-1 in their